Governor Bobber. I like good day, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Go! You're watching Dr. Politics.
They're Dr. Politics. He's the one to see. Breaking down the news with sharp analysis. From Congress halls to campaign trails, he tells the truth when all else fails. They're Dr. Politics. Dr. Politics. Exposing the spin, the lies and tricks. Dr. Politics. Dr. Politics. He calls it straight, no politics as usual. Love from backroom deals to primetime fights. He sheds some light and sets things right. Debates, elections, policy. He cuts through all the DC sleaze. Oh, Dr. Politics. He's got the facts. Dr. Politics. No holding back. Dr. Politics. Go away. Dr. Politics, he's got the facts. Dr. Politics, no holding back. Dr. Politics.
Welcome, everyone. It is April 10th, 2026. 5 days before Uncle Sam comes a knocking for taxes.
Yeah, my taxes are done, but I swear I don't know about you, but I don't know what it is. I don't know when my CPA, my accountant sends that thing in, but I definitely think the IRS is backed up or something like that.
Well, I tell my accountant don't transmit until the 15th. There's
Yeah,
no need.
if you owe money, don't give them the money until the last minute.
Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah.
Yeah, but this year I have refunds coming for a change. So I'm like, I check that, where's my refund thing, and we don't have a record of your return. And then I looked it up and I said, sometimes it can take 3 or 4 weeks before that shows up there because they don't put it in there until they start processing it. So it sounds like this is going to be a while.
Yeah, and it's funny how it's just the utter incompetence. I remember long time ago when I was able to use the 1040 EZ or the 1040A. I don't think I was ever able to use the EZ form, but the A form was a simpler version. You could do a little bit of itemization, not a lot. But I think that's really what everyone's tax form should be, like the 1040A, frankly.
Well, I mean, how many times in our lifetime have we heard about, flat taxes and all these kind of things, stuff like
Steve Forbes' postcard tax form.
That's right. Exactly. That's exactly where I was going. Steve Forbes, put it on a postcard. Boom.
Yeah, it's funny. He was just on John Stossel's podcast not too long ago talking about the tax policies and how he brought up the postcard tax again.
Yeah, I kind of wonder. I mean, well, since that time, since the Steve Forbes era of, put on a postcard and things like that, I wonder how many more IRS regulations and rules, for taxes have come into being,
I know they got rid of a bunch of deductions since then. And I really think I think more people be inclined to finance a car if you could deduct the interest on the car loans.
Well, didn't that come back this past year?
Did it? Oh, if it did, that's good.
I think they actually put that back in. They stuff that had been eliminated over the years. I mean, you remember, the big one for the liberals hated was the SALT, the state and local income tax, and that's been expanded. So that makes those high tax states very happy. I had mixed emotions about this because,
we're in a high tax state.
Yep. exactly. We're in a high tax state, and I'm like, I couldn't really take advantage of that because my property tax was almost at that limit. I mean, and so it's just like, well, this is not helping me at all.
No, it is not. And I think these property taxes just horrible, horrible. And now Montgomery County, Mark Elric wants to raise another 6%.
Yeah,
Well,
as if we don't have enough pain in this county for
yeah.
taxes. They're already they're already taking in extra money because the assessments rose. So yeah, why not just add insult to injury and then raise the property tax rate on top of that, right? Okay, that's great. This is a great way that you keep the citizens here, in the county and in the state. Between Westmore and Mark Elric, I mean, these people are just abominable.
Oh yeah, and Westmore the other day he's touting about how I don't know what he's reading, where he's getting his numbers. Where he goes, oh, we haven't raised any taxes at all. Yeah, you didn't raise any this year, but you raised plenty the last 3 years. I think there's an election this year. That's maybe why you didn't raise taxes and fees. It's utterly reprehensible. And then he talks about how
politicians are. I mean, the thing is that okay, well, if we don't raise taxes, we'll increase your fees, right? I mean, like we're talking about before, automobile registration, right?
Yep.
They've skyrocketed. The average person is who opens and sees their mail or gets an email.
They're paying like $600.
So you're like, what just happened here?
Yep. And that is criminal, frankly. It is utterly criminal what they're doing. And it's like they don't even care. They are like, oh, well, if they can't afford it, they'll just take the bus,
Yeah, I mean, I remember when Governor Bob came in. I mean, they did raise the registration fees under his watch, but they stayed stable, and we got used to that. And admittedly, the fees were pretty darn low before that anyway. But to take it from this level to what they've done now, that's just criminal. I mean, and just while people are still a lot of people still struggling with things, is like, oh yeah, just let's kind of hit them left and right. You mentioned property tax. We got this. There are people who are having a hard time, and the last thing they need are all these fees and taxes being raised.
Oh, and I guarantee if Westmore is reelected, we're going to see tolls go up next year, because that's the one thing they haven't touched. And I think also next year they're going to bring back that Easy Pass fee that Larry Hogan got rid of.
Yeah, I mean those are fairly easy targets, but that would be terrible.
Yeah, especially considering the way Easy Pass right now is, if you don't, because they got rid of all the toll booths, right? So if you don't have it, they sent you a higher ticket in the mail for your Easy Pass. And there was a story in the Baltimore Sun a few weeks ago about how what's happening is people are being hundreds of thousands of dollars in toll fines. And it's not the toll, it's the fines they keep adding. And I know life's not fair, but come on, $100,000 for somebody who's probably living on a fixed income or something, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Virginia's had some of the same issues, and Virginia's, they're run by this outfit called Transurban that does most of the handling of things. The problem is just that the Easy Pass system, I think they just ought to require you to put a credit card or debit card on file, so it just kind of go through there, and assume, I don't know what happened. I don't know how you stop people from using it, once it's depleted or whatever. But mine's on a credit card, so it just continues to replenish. $25 every time it goes down below 10. This seems to be easy, but there are a lot of people who don't want to do that, so they agree that they're going to pay up to 50% more for the toll, and they'll get it in the mail, and then they ignore it. Now, don't ignore
that.
And people do move, and there's some other issues and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but
people don't.
But the penalties on this stuff are just ridiculous.
And the other point is also people also have the other issues. There, people get so much junk mail in their mail, and USPS is not the most reliable like they once were about delivering your mail. I mean, I remember I got a thing that I was late on emissions. This is about 5 years ago, but I never received an emissions document in the mail telling me to have a. So, and obviously they know this happens because when I called them, I go, "Hey, I never saw anything." They go, "Oh, okay, so we'll give you an extension and go do it." I'm like, "How about that? You know, this stuff is happening, you know."
Yeah, if they were willing to give you an extension right away, something's fishy.
Yeah. They know it's not always going out, you know.
Well,
Like,
yeah,
it also happened.
they raised the emissions test too. That's another one.
Yeah. And I think they're getting rid of the kiosks, which was a cheaper way of doing it. They're getting rid of that.
Yeah, the kiosk. I mean,
It never worked though. Every time I'd go, you know, the
well, yeah.
kiosk.
So I go to the gym up. My gym's up in Gaithersburg. It's just a few blocks away. From where the NBA is just a few blocks away from where the gym is. So I have opted when I can, I'll go early in the morning before I go to the gym. I'll go a little bit earlier, and then I'll use that kiosk. The problem is, as I think you were stating here, is that their functionality there and how long they stayed online was kind of iffy. So I have been to that thing numerous times where it wasn't working. And there's only one. Okay, it's the MVA office in Gaithersburg. It is the big, it's the big one for our county. And you can't get one stinking kiosk to stay online when you tell people this is the way, why don't you do it this way because you'll save like $4. Hey, that's fine. Well, why don't I treat this like a self checkout. Have more of them because it just would make more sense. More people would be amenable to that. Nobody really wants to wait in a line at a Veep place, just waiting and waiting and going through all that nonsense.
And also, I think also the MVAs in general, they're always run so poorly. Everyone there is miserable. They want to make everyone else's life as miserable as possible. There was a friend of mine who works for me. He got a ticket from the city of Berwyn Heights because they're just a bunch of leeches and they treat speed cameras like an ATM, frankly. And he's trying to pay it. They keep asking for a PIN. He goes, "I don't have a PIN." And then he tries to call. They go, "Oh, use the self-help chatbot on the website to get it." He goes there. "I can't help you. Call this number." He calls that number. Think it's a different. No, same thing. If you need help getting your PIN, go use our self-help chatbot on the website. And it got to a point where he's just, so he just drove to Berwyn Heights and said, "Here's your damn money."
Yeah, I mean, Berwyn Heights. Are we talking about over there in PG County?
Yep, right by NASA. They get all the NASA employees who take that way to go various places. Yeah, they hit the NASA people. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm never sure when one place starts, another place begins. I had to go see somebody in Clarksburg, and so I typed in the address, and it's like, oh, I didn't know I could go. I didn't know I was going this way. So I left my home, and I wound up on Air Park and Brink Road and whatnot, and up to 27. And I'm like, oh, because I thought Clarksburg, all I could think about was Clarksburg outlets and up that way up to 270, and I was completely on the back road. And I know people who lived on like the other side of the road. And I'm like, I think they're in Germantown. It's that close. I mean, it's just the divide. Sometimes like, oh, I didn't realize that Clarksburg was right off to this side. So
yeah, it's like our friend Dr. John's mom. She moved up to Clarksburg, and she's off that exit where Butler's Orchard is and all that stuff is.
That's exactly where I was today.
And I'm thinking that this is not. I don't think of this as Clarksburg. I think of this as basically Germantown or Gaithersburg.
No, I know. I'm up there, and I'm thinking like, to me, this is Germantown.
But again, and those houses they're big houses, but they've got no yards, no yards at all. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the person I was visiting was in a townhouse off of Snowden Falls or something. Yeah. So I mean, it was just just right by, just not far from Butler's Orchard and everything like that. But I hadn't been down that, I hadn't gone down that way before. So like, oh, there's a lot of homes down here.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff being built up over there.
It's a little bit different than when I was a child going to Butler's Orchard.
There's nothing there probably back then. I remember when I think calling to Herndon, Virginia was a toll call, as was even calling to Germantown was a toll call, I think.
Yeah, I think you're pretty on about that. I think we had a really weird system here where, like, if you lived in Silver Spring, you want to call Gaithersburg, that was going to be like a long distance or toll call.
Yep.
I mean, that was just like nuts. I mean, you and I are old enough, and and Susan too. It's just that, think about talking about long distance charges on phone, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when I was at AIM, I mean, I was always busy all the time trying to find the cheapest long distance service that wasn't going to impact the business in a negative way. So I'm trying to keep those rates down because they were averaging like over 30 cents a minute.
Yeah. And I mean, calling even, it was really funny. So you could call Annapolis toll free. Annapolis, you never told, but you call Gaithersburg, which is closer. I don't know how they did that, but also I just remember we didn't have to dial the 301 or the 410 or the 240s. I remember when the entire state of Maryland was a 301 number.
Yeah, well, I mean, back in the day too. I mean, we didn't, if you gave us a toll-free number, we were likely to call that rather than calling their regular number, right? Didn't want to have to do that, and incur the extra charges. But now, we pick up our cell phone, we can call pretty much anywhere in the continental U.S. and it's all the same cost. It's all embedded into our bill.
Yeah.
So which is nice. But can you imagine? I mean, if we're trying to tell millennials or some others, it's like, just, by the way, we used to have to pay, if we were making a 5-minute phone call, we might have paid, $2 to $5 or whatever to make that call. The look on their face would probably just be like, what are you talking about?
I mean, remember we used to wait to after 11 to get cheaper calls?
That's true.
And on weekends, you make all your long distance calls for 5 o'clock on Sunday. And it was, I think, the MCI that kind of changed that to, you can make toll, like, cheaper long distance calls after 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. or something like that is what.
Yeah, I mean, I think I probably did that at the office. I probably, because we stayed well past 5. Yeah. This is when we were, over on K Street and stuff like that.
Okay.
So, that was far enough back that we were still doing long distance calls. But I mean, staying past 5 o'clock, then you could make calls elsewhere, like to the West Coast or whatever, because it was cheaper. It was just ridiculous.
Yeah. And remember when Capitol Hill, the unions would always give out a free 800 number to call Congress. I know a lot of groups would just share that same union number to call when they, want to do our kind of advocacy. Just use let the unions pay for the toll call. Jack Bonner, who used to do a lot of he was notorious for getting a whole bunch of 800 numbers, the Capitol switchboards and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I mean, life has changed. I mean, even the county. I mean, we used to have to live with kind of a bifurcated cable system. We had Montgomery County, cable television, but that didn't cover the entire county.
No. I mean, we didn't get cable down in our neighborhood till, I want to say, probably 1991.
Yeah, could be.
Like do you remember Super TV?
I remember that. What was that?
It was only on, it would only be on after 7 and on weekends. But you could see movies and stuff like that. It was kind of like HBO, because HBO was not in our area. When HBO was just the movies, is all it was.
Yeah.
But
trips down memory lane. I mean, I remember using the Photomat. I remember renting videotapes, and all this stuff, right?
I remember I was actually talking to somebody just the other day. I remember buying film at W Bell, because you could get black and white film at W Bell for about $1.99. Opposed to People's Drugstore was selling for like $5 black and white film.
Yeah, I mean, there was that long time period. I mean, between W. Bell, Evans Distributors and Jewelers,
Yep,
and
best company.
and Best. Yeah,
And then there was another one, John Greenman and Son. I think they might actually still be in business.
that's
But they
possible.
only had, they used to have like 4 stores. I think they're down to 1 store now.
Yeah. But you would go you go to any one of those catalog showrooms, and they were busy.
Yes, they were.
They were busy. I don't know how much time I spent in those places, but they were busy places.
I don't know. I always think W. Bell. I don't know why I thought it, but I thought W. Bell was. I associated. I think it was a millionaire store because everything was like. There was nothing like they had all the fancy silver and stuff like that.
They sold Rolexes.
Yes, they did. They did. Actually, I always thought Woodward and Lothrop was like that too. I thought that was like a millionaire store because you always see old people there, never like young people there.
Hey, my dining room set my parents purchased for us was from, they bought it at Woody's. Good for, I mean, we still have it. I mean, here we are 40.
I tell you, the stuff they made back then is built so much better than stuff. You go to Haverty's, pay $7,000 for living room sofas, right? And 5 years, the cushions are all worn and stuff like that. You got to kind of replace everything.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'd be a little careful about Levitt's. I was always kind of like, yeah, but you look at today, like Value City Furniture and Bob's, and like
they're out of business in Value City.
I'm not so sure about that. And so yeah, Susan's throwing up Gem. Okay, so if you're throwing out Gem, I'm going to throw out Memco.
Memco. I remember Memco. Memco was a great store.
It was good. I mean, it was it was really my first time looking at a place where it mixed groceries, which we bought a lot of there, as well as kind of a department store, right?
They had the best house brand chocolate chip cookies.
Oh my goodness!
They were really good. And also another thing I liked about Memco's was like this is back when Star Wars action figures were about $3, $2.99 each. They would sell them for $1.99.
Yeah, and that's when you could actually get a bunch of cookies.
Yeah. And I mean, also the other thing, Memco had a couple of really good house brand stuff, like on the food side. They were the only place you could buy. I guess now you can get Hershey's powder everywhere, but I think back then, I think Memco was the only one selling the larger size. Like you get the small ones, but this would be like the oversized kind, the kind you'd buy at Costco's today, But
yeah, I mean, I just think about all these things from my childhood and putting them on the record. Charles chips delivered to my parents' door.
By the way, that's the what is it? Nowadays, Costco's the only place you can buy Tang. I don't think you can get Tang at Safeway. Although Tang was not part of the Artemis 2 mission. They did not take Tang.
I still remember my neighbor getting milk delivered to their doorstep.
Oh, I remember that too. I mean, the lady across the street from us, she'd have the seal test dairy guy would bring the milk.
Yeah, and they had a container on their doorstep,
Yep.
Mm-hmm. They just put the milk bottles in there. I mean, that was just supposed to be really good milk. I mean,
what was funny is I remember this clearly once. I guess she wanted ice cream, so the guy goes out and gives it. I mean, this is the seal test dairy guy, and he sells her Breyer's ice cream. I'm like, that's kind of funny. I thought Seal Test made their own ice cream too. Maybe not.
Seal Test. That's also another oldie but goodie.
Oh yeah, there used to be a grocery store called Cook's. I don't know if you ever remember that at all.
No.
It was next to the Chinese restaurant in the Woodmore Shopping Center.
Okay.
But they would have a lot of rich food stuff.
Yeah, that was more your neck of the woods than mine.
Yeah, and they also would have, what else do they have there? The bakery is still owned by the same family there in Woodmore, I've been told.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think there's still a few High's Dairy stores around too, right?
In Baltimore.
I mean, I haven't been, I haven't gone this way in a long time, but when I used to go over to Larry Hakimian's place and stuff like that, there's actually one there's one in Howard County too. I think that's what I was doing, is passing through. But yeah, I think when I saw it, I'm like, High's Dairy Store? My goodness.
Yeah. High's Dairy.
With a gas station.
Yeah, they do have a gas station now, and the gas is actually cheaper there than it is in other places. But then again, It's still cheaper than it was when Joe Biden was president. We're not paying $5 for a gallon. That's silver lining.
Yeah, we know. Well, we know why the gas prices are higher, right? I mean, this war has, the Strait of Hormuz being shut off and all the supplies, so we know that there's, this has shot this thing up. We've seen a leveling, at least, like for the first time since I've been watching in the last several weeks. The average price of gas from AAA has actually decreased just a tick, but that was a step in the right direction. My stations around here are always kind of on the expensive side, but I've seen 5 to 10 cent drops here.
Last Saturday, I did get gas at Sheetz for $3.99.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's then and stations some stations I think we're trying to hold at $3.99 or below and trying to avoid going over $4. But there's a point where they just couldn't do it anymore. But I do want to give a shout out to BP. So BP's got this, loyalty program and everything too. But so when you have that, it's actually pretty nifty. But so with that program, you get like 10 cents off anyway. But on Fridays for the month of April, they're doing 20 cents. And if you're an Amazon Prime member and you pay with the BP credit card, then it goes to 30 cents.
Oh wow.
So, not insignificant. What I wind up doing is actually I got a 20-cent discount today when I put some gas in my car, and I pay for it with my 5%, discount card. My USAA credit card that, I get 5% back. I'm like, all right. So my net price today was about $3.74 or something.
That's
like
not
that.
bad. That's not bad.
Yeah, Costco up in Frederick today was $3.95, which is okay.
Yeah. And there's, the prices will go down. What are your thoughts on the ceasefire? I don't think the ceasefire is going to hold, frankly. It kind of isn't already, but they still haven't. They're still charging tolls to go through the Strait of Hormuz. And why haven't we thought of building a canal, a large canal? We could build 2 canals the size of the new Panama Canal, and you don't have to worry about Iran after that.
It does make you think of, it's like if there's a way that you could do this. It's not something you could probably build very quickly, I guess. Nothing.
Well, over there you don't have the EPA and NEPA rules and all. You'd have to.
Well, yeah, you'd get rid of some of the regulations, and if you could do that, it does make you think you need other ways of getting that through.
Remember the Empire State Building was built in a year.
Yeah, otherwise you wind up getting held hostage. Think about the gas pipelines, with Russia that would go into Europe. They put all their chips on that. These Germany and these guys, not realizing that there's comes a time when you get to this Russia-Ukraine war, then it becomes kind of a conundrum. It's like, oh well, we've got we need the gas, but there's this war situation, but so if we decide that we don't want it anymore, or cut off, or tell them they can't send their gas through Europe, what happens then? In the meantime, they gave up all their nuclear plants.
Yeah. We can ship LNG from here. There was talk down in St. Mary's County they were going to build an LNG plant down there. They never did that, but because of environmental regulations and blah 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 and all this crazy stuff. And by the way, the Germans had a really nice array and network of nuclear power plants. Why did they turn those off? Why? It makes no sense. You've gone through it. You've been dealing with. Just because Greta Thunberg doesn't like nuclear power doesn't mean you just get rid of it. She's just a pestilent little child.
Well, that's what helped save France from really dire circumstances, because they didn't shut theirs down.
Yeah.
Macron, these guys kept them running, while Merkel said, we're going to be green, we're going to shut these down and give in to the environmental wackos.
Yep.
And then they wind up, with a big problem.
That's true. And yeah, it's just incompetence. These are self-inflicted problems that the Europeans have had with the energy since the war in Ukraine, which is still going on,
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and I'm for this, I'm counting. I'm still going to count every day, even through this ceasefire, as the war going on, because the war is not ended. A ceasefire is not an end to a war. So I'm just going to keep counting until we get to this end point. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see how the negotiations go, but
we'll know real soon this weekend how it's going.
Yeah, well, look, my wife is. I think she's more of a hardliner than I am. And she's just like, we need to finish the job, and to a certain extent, I think she's right. It's like,
yes,
we shouldn't be pussyfooting around. I wasn't really.
I love the president's comment
going into Iran in one sense, but I didn't like that regime. Was there an imminent threat in terms of were they going to strike in a few days or a week or a few months? I didn't think so, but at some point in time, you need somebody to step up and take out the threat. And I think Donald Trump is the only person who is willing to step up and take out the threat. He goes into Venezuela and changes the map. I mean, so it's not exactly where we want it to be, but it's better than it was before.
I think it's funny that how the left just went unhinged when the president said, we're going to destroy. We're not going to genocide the Persian people. You people take everything he says so literally, and you fall into his trap.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have my on my own podcast, the one I do with my friend. We were talking about Trump's expletive filled tirade that he put on True Social, and stuff about this whole thing, and I don't like this language, particularly from the president of the United States.
It's not
if he wants to say this in private, that's fine. But I think my colleague he made a good point. He says goes, I'm with you. I don't like it either. But he says that isn't directed at you and me in the MAGA basis area. It is directed at the mullahs, right? Yeah. It is, and he is purposely sending a message to our enemies that I am not going to tolerate this much longer, and I will bomb the hell out of you if you don't come and fall into line. And that, I think, is true. I think that is true, is that he is using a lot of incendiary language.
And he did bring them to the
because they don't understand anything else. But
yeah, and remember, hours before the bombing was going to start, they said, "Okay, we'll do a 10-day ceasefire."
Yeah.
Yeah, and they put these dream conditions in there. Oh, we still got to have a nuclear. Why do you need a nuclear program? You are an oil-rich nation. You don't need. And last check, I don't think there's any. You don't have a bunch of young people because you've killed them all that would be protesting about environmental damage and all that. But I mean, you're an oil-rich country, frankly, for crying out loud. You don't need nuclear power. And this is what would have happened if Iran got a nuclear bomb. We'd have a Middle Eastern arms race. The Saudis will start developing a nuclear bomb. The Jordanians, well, there's no real Syrians, but the Egyptians maybe, will start developing nuclear weapons as a counterbalance to Iran. And Iran is an irrational country. I would not put it past them to fire off a nuke if they had the capability. I mean, they had a missile that hit Diego Garcia. That same missile could hit London and Paris and Rome. And the Europeans, and I think part of the problem is their relaxed immigration policy of the last 20 years is causing them to not join us in battle against, the great enemy of the world and of the free world, Iran. Frankly.
Yeah, I think we've seen that. I mean, it's just we got serious about immigration, and a lot of other nations have not, and they wind up with a lot of problems when they just let it go. I think a lot worse than ours. I mean, they just. And
I think to an extent, I think those Europeans have the Brits, the Germans, the French. They have this whole thing. Oh, we used to colonize. We need to let these people in because we really treated them pretty badly. And no, they did. They didn't treat all of them pretty badly. Just because you weren't around during the colonies, you were not the one that actually pulled the trigger and did this or did that. You can't just be held responsible for the sins of people that governed before you, frankly. I mean, do we hold the Japanese responsible for Pearl Harbor today? No. But there's, but I was reading, Japan has a major immigration problem too, from like Africa, India, the French Indochina area. A lot of immigrants going to Japan too.
Yeah, and Japan had been notorious for their very tight immigration policy. I mean, they've let in, they've in the past they've let in Brazilians and some Peruvians, people who had Japanese descent, because there are quite a few of those around.
Yeah, wasn't Bolivia or Peru had a Japanese prime minister at one point?
Well, Peru had a Japanese president.
Yeah, that's what I meant. President.
Fujimori.
Yeah, Fujimori. Yeah.
So but the problem for these countries now, and we're getting to that point too, is that our replacement rate is not adequate enough, and it's far worse in the Far East and Asia, and Europe is having a problem, where just not enough babies, and it's like, so then what do? If you let in some immigrants, you can try to offset that. But if you don't vet those immigrants, if you don't actually have some kind of procedure, then you can have a problem. I mean, I don't like to criticize, say, religious groups per se, but there's a huge Muslim population, right, in France and in England, and there's a lot of problems with those populations.
Yeah, remember they were just a few years ago. Remember they were rioting.
Right. I mean, and they live in squalor a lot of times, and so they are ripe. At the drop of a hat, they will go riot and burn things up and loot and do whatever. They don't need much excuse to go and do that, because they also think that the government should be giving them jobs and money, and those countries don't have enough jobs and enough money.
Yeah. And here's the thing, the way immigration needs to be done, you got to let them. There should be, even on legal immigration, I'll say there should be a moratorium. We need to let people in, let them become Americans. None of this balkanization stuff. You got people like when my granddad came from India. They learned English. They didn't, nowadays you have people that come from India. They live in communities where there's a lot of Indians around, so they're not even really speaking English because they talk to each other in Hindi or whatever the language they speak with everyone around them. You go to Atlanta, Georgia, like in areas like Johns Creek, you got entire subdivisions that are basically all South Asians, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm thinking what that does is balkanizes people, frankly. You don't get to experience the other cultures. And I think that's what was the great thing about America. Like, you had an Italian, an Irish, a Frenchman all living on the same street. And what do? They took they got to learn about French culture and Italian culture and German culture and Greek culture and so on. And that's how we have these neighborhoods, Alex Luther, who writes for our club, grew up in Butler, but his great-grandparents came from Germany. They settled in East Baltimore. Then they moved out to like the Perry Hall area, but they became Americans. They didn't, they didn't, stay German, speak German in the home, and and badmouth the country, frankly. And that's, you do have that with a lot of these people. Like you look at the Hispanic community, they're always waving their El Salvadorian or Honduran or Nicaraguan flags when they're doing these when they're doing these immigration riots and stuff like that. It's like, you're in America, you're a guest in my home, try to behave like a guest, frankly, speak English. I mean, I remember in high school, and we had Hispanic kids in school, they were taking Spanish. How is it if you speak Spanish at home, you're failing a Spanish class? That's what I want to know. How does that happen? It's like, I took German and I passed German with a B and an A, it was kind of like I had an A the first quarter and then I had a B the second quarter. And it was like, It was like, I don't need this class.
I will say though, I mean, my experience of taking Spanish in Montgomery County schools was more like, well, we learned some words.
Mhm.
We didn't learn conversational Spanish, right?
Yeah.
And we were supposed to do some writing things. So I'm like, I guess I could see even Spanish kids, not doing well on certain parts of Spanish because okay, they were learned how to speak, but they maybe didn't learn how to write, or something like that. It's like, and that would be part of it too. So yeah, I don't know.
What is it? I was in a French immersion program from the first grade all the way to sixth grade. And do I know enough French? I probably know enough French to get around Paris without any troubles. But here's the thing: we had a couple of French kids in that, and they did better than us non-native French speakers in that class. You'd think the same thing would happen with Spanish speakers taking a Spanish class, or a Chinese, like a Chinese person that takes Mandarin and taking Mandarin Chinese in high school. You'd expect them to pass it. You don't want them to fail it.
Lazy.
Yeah. And it's
Or something.
just,
Yeah. Wow.
oh, nice.
Yeah, I think I scraped by because I took those language classes, but I didn't really want to take those language classes.
Yeah, I took German and I took Latin. And Latin because we had a great Latin teacher, Phil Nickerson, and he was probably the best Latin teacher in MCPS schools. Great guy. He commuted all the way from Kent Island. And I remember first day of the class, he goes, "If it's raining, I am not going to come. Expect a substitute."
Well, I mean, so when I was a young child, my father was, I think he was the head for a period of time of the Washington Esperanto Society.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like, who speaks Esperanto?
Yeah. I mean, your dad spoke multiple languages.
Well, he knew Japanese because he studied that during the war. That was his main bread and butter.
Mhm.
So, but he also spoke some Spanish, which I never was quite sure where he learned that. But so
maybe when he went to Langley Park, I don't know. That's where he.
So he the language skills were part of his job because he accompanied the Fed chairman and other Fed officials on trips to South America and then to Japan and other parts of Asia because of his language skill. But so that helped. It's kind of like you learn a language. So we have lots of LDS missionaries that learn languages, and they serve all over the world, right? And a lot of them that wind up living back here in this area. Where have they found jobs? NSA.
Yeah.
And the ones that learned how to speak Arabic or something like that, they were definitely in high demand.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Arabic speakers, sadly German never became German used to be the most popular language taught in high schools in America before World War II. Maybe even World War One, but after World War II, definitely the German language declined. People weren't taking German. French, I think, was very popular because I think the fact that MCPS had one school that was a French immersion school speaks volumes too. They did French immersion.
I mean, the main choices usually, when I was going to school, were Spanish or French.
Yeah,
pretty much so. I mean, that was it. Those were the languages that seemed to be very popular at the time. So now I find myself at my advanced age, just kind of scraping through Duolingo just to refresh my memory, but not pushing it too hard. My wife is picking back up on her Japanese because we're going to be making another trip back to Japan to meet my cousins who I haven't seen for 56 years.
Oh wow! You going to Japan or Korea?
We're going to go to Korea, and then we're going to go to Japan, and we're going to come back to Korea, and then we come home.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, I'd hit this 4 million mile mark with American Airlines that I didn't even know I was near because I had not flown much.
You're like Joe Biden, but with airplanes. Remember Joe Biden's made 1 million miles.
Yeah, I mean, I built up all these miles because I flew for AIM and would get double miles, and we had some credit card points, things like that. But then, when my time at AIM was running down, I have flown very little over the last, what has been, almost 10 years now. It's getting
I used
close
to
to
fly
that.
business class to California. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So, now, but we didn't realize when we took our trip last year, um, got back home, and I was like, so all of a sudden
Was
it's
that
like,
just
oh,
last year you went to Japan? I thought it was a couple of years since you
no, we
did.
went last year, and we weren't
Oh,
planning.
wow.
We weren't planning on making this an annual thing, but American Airlines, because we hit this next milestone, gave us what they call system-wide upgrades, which are good for about 2 years.
Mhm.
So we have to use them, and they're worth a lot of money because you can buy kind of a regular ticket, and then if there's space available, they'll push you up to business class if available. So
Mhm.
my wife's trying to play this little game of like, okay, buy these tickets and then put the upgrade request in, and she's watching the business class seats availability to see what
Mhm.
our odds are of getting in. So far so good, but we've got 19 days left and there are 18 seats available, and we're like, okay, people stop buying the tickets. We
Yeah, I think once I mean, like with international flights, once you cross over that 30 day, because that's like the break point, right? If you're flying, say if I want to fly tomorrow, I'm going to pay almost $5,000-6,000 for a ticket. But if I wait 30 days, that becomes like $1,000 ticket or $2,000 ticket.
Well, yeah, I mean, advanced purchase is definitely is generally the way to go, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so that you can lock in a better rate, and particularly these days because the airlines are raising their fares because the fuel costs are going up and everything. So that's what I was kind of counting on, is that we'll go ahead and spend our money, but we won't spend as much as we did last year because
Hmm.
we get an upgrade. We'll be in good shape. So we're just kind of watching this whole thing
Oh, nice.
develop, and we'll see what happens.
I tell you, there was a what is it? British Airways. They used to have a really good miles program, and they were partnered with Delta, I think. And then, but what the sneaky thing they always had, like they had these blackout times where you couldn't use the miles at all. I'm like, what's the point of having these miles? Because like you want to use them, like when like it seems like there's like summer months they block out. You can't use them like some certain parts of the summer. It's like when I want to go, that's when I could use them, but you don't, So you kind of bite the bullet. Have to go like sometime in September or October to
Yeah,
get the full.
but I may be wrong, but I think the mileage game has changed a little bit now, where
It
it's
has. This is like we're talking almost like 10, 15
yeah,
years
where
ago.
I mean, you can use your miles, but now
I
it's
could
a
use miles to buy other stuff too.
right. Yeah, but now it's a variable, right? I mean, it's kind of so the algorithm will tell the airline what they should charge in miles for a trip. So, you know, when it used to be like you would spend 25,000 miles for a domestic, round trip, that
Hmm.
same round trip could be 50,000 miles if it's
Yeah.
short notice into a popular destination and stuff like that. And so, or it could drop to 10,000 miles if there's no demand. So
Hmm.
you just never know, so it's something you have to kind of keep an eye on all the time. But yeah, I mean, I think I flew business class. My wife and I flew to Korea, like maybe 20 some years ago,
Hmm.
and it was a lot less than it is today.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, business class is the way to go, though. And now they also have I noticed because I'm I could go on a trip soon, but I tell you what I found is that they have a new category, economy premium. What is that? They got
Yeah. So this is how what American does, and most of the other airlines do something similar. All right. So
Mhm,
the flights that we're taking, once we leave, we'll fly to Dallas, and then
mhm,
take our flight to Korea.
mhm,
So we're hoping to fly business class to Korea. Business class is basically the old first class. Lie
yeah,
flat seats. You know,
yeah,
I think there are, you know,
meal service.
I think it's a 2-2-2 configuration.
Uh-huh.
Premium economy is the old business class. So what you had in business class for seating, which were kind of like the first class
Yeah,
domestic. That's
yeah.
basically what it is.
That's not bad. That is not bad at all.
Yeah. So we bought premium economy, but what my wife wants to do is knock that down to like main cabin extra, because the upgrades we have, if we get it, will push us into to the business class. Oh,
You know
6
what I
minutes
found?
away from entry.
Yeah,
Good. Yeah, it's supposed to splash down around 8 o'clock, right? So
yeah,
that makes sense, I guess.
yeah. And also, the cheapest airline in the world I found is Qatar and Emirates. How can they afford to do their prices that low?
Hey, I saw a thing, because of this turmoil in Mideast. I think it was Etihad or whatever. I mean,
Yeah,
they've cut their prices back to like the pandemic level
yeah,
because there's no demand.
yeah. It's like Qatar Airlines, even
I'm sitting
Kuwait.
here thinking like maybe we ought to check to catching a flight to somewhere on those airlines,
Yeah,
because they're supposed to be really nice.
hmm it's yeah. Emirates. I've got a friend of mine from high school. He just loves flying Emirates. He goes, their first class puts all other first class to shame.
MC GOP Club highfalutin trip to Dubai or something.
Yeah, there you go, Dubai. But it's a little hot there. I know they say it's a dry heat, but at 107, hot is hot.
Yeah. Like a look. I know. I have a sister-in-law who lives in Mesa, Arizona, and just
Oh yeah.
like,
It's a dry heat.
It's dry heat, and like, sorry, once you get to 105 plus, no.
Well, Dr. John and his wife, they live in Scottsdale, and they go, "Oh, it's not like the heat. It's not humid. It's a dry heat." I'm like, it's still at 104 degrees.
I mean, the temperatures can get up to like 120 degrees. It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Don't even try to convince me that this is livable.
Like we were talking about Florida, they go, but the Florida heat is more humid. I go, yeah, but we also get a cool breeze off the ocean in the evening, so it's not so bad. The west coast of Florida, it is humid. It is murder. I would not want to live on that side of the state of Florida.
Yeah, humidity can be pretty brutal, but heat itself will kill. So
yeah, we're gonna be 90 degrees next week.
Isn't that nuts? Okay.
I know.
I mean, especially after we just had, we hit like 30 degrees the other night. I'm like, oh man, it's freezing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like, what was it last week? AC was on, then the heat was on.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I don't want to turn on my heat, but I do have my thermostat set to automatically kick in at a certain temperature. It's like, It finally hit that point, and my wife is like, I don't want to have her freeze to death. So I'm like, yeah, do whatever. It's like,
yeah. So I guess we should start final thoughts if you want to watch the splashdown, or we can all watch together on the NASA website. Oh yeah, let's see. Oh, they're a long ways off, I think.
Yeah, they said it was going to be around 8 p.m., but that's just depending upon a lot of factors, I think.
Well, I mean, here this is. I mean, I know it's all free fall and all that, but it's going to take them this is where they are right now.
Oh yeah, they're not.
Entering the Earth's atmosphere. We're at 400,000 feet, traveling 34,800 feet per second.
In the atmosphere. I guess once they cut through everything, it's like a free fall almost.
Time to splash down, 13 minutes, 10 seconds.
There we go, 13 minutes. That'll be a little after 8.
Yeah. So anyway, let's do final thoughts. Don?
All right, final thoughts. Stuff we didn't really get things there. So the Democrats are trying to push the 25th Amendment. It's not going to fly. It's goofy. I mean, look, you may not like President Trump and his actions, but you can't find there's no path to the 25th Amendment to remove him from office. It's absolutely nuts and nonsense. But of course, it's the Democrats trying to do this, and the vice president has to acquiesce as well, and that's not going to happen. So yet another stupid idea by the Democrats to try to do something. Kamala Harris has said, "Yeah, I'm thinking about running in 2028." I say more power to you because
Run, Kamala, run.
yeah, we can
Just
we
like
can
that.
we can
just like-
support Kamala running because
yeah,
that'll guarantee J.D. Vance or whoever wins the
Yeah.
nomination.
just like
You know,
Don Lemon wants to run for president in 2028. Run, Don, run.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, let these Democrats. I mean, let them. They don't have any really good, solid candidates. So
No, I mean, actually, the best candidate they have would never get their nominee, Josh Shapiro, the governor of
right,
Pennsylvania.
yeah, no,
But
I mean, he's
the
probably the
Democrat
most,
Party is a bunch of anti-Semites, so they're not going to get it.
yeah. I mean, I think it definitely kept him from getting into the mix this last time. In
Oh, yeah.
terms of for things. So it's yeah, it's just it's it's a mess for the Democrats in that sense. I'm still a little concerned about the midterms, but if if Trump finally they get a settlement here in Iran, and maybe if they do something in Cuba that's positive, but the inflation's got to get down, gas prices
Yeah,
have got
but
to go
it's
down.
kind of held steady though. I mean, it did hold. It's not it's not all bad. Inflation didn't go up; it did stay steady. We're
Well, I
not
mean,
at
it's higher.
2%.
It's higher than they want to be, and this is where the arguments with conservatives always are. Is like, oh, it's this and the other. It's like I know people who are thinking they're sure that it's going to go close to that 2% Fed target. I'm like, I'm not so sure of that because I really do think that there are some things that have just become embedded in the economy where it's going to be hard to get below say 2.5%. It's sticking around for a while, and if that's the new normal, that's the new normal. Uh, for us, but when it's at 3% or higher, I think people think very negatively about it. Gas prices are definitely a psychological negative for a lot of people.
Oh yeah, and that's I mean, you have them also doing all these rallies and all that. Here we go. By the way, it's coming down. But as you have all the Democrats doing all these rallies by gas stations protesting the higher, where were they 4 years ago? It was $5 plus for a gallon of gas in Maryland, and
Yeah.
they're just hypocrites. They are utterly hypocritical, frankly.
Yeah, and then one last thing is Al Sharpton is talking about holding a rally for blacks on July 4th. Saying that this the 250th anniversary of America is really not about us. He says we weren't emancipated until 1863, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
Can people just get over this stuff? I mean, honest to God, it's like there isn't a single slave owner or a slave alive today. Okay, we are not a racist country. I mean, we've had black members of the United States Senate, Congress, governors, and a president.
Yeah. I don't know. Are you? Is he saying that because there was slavery, until Lincoln emancipated them and everything like that. That up to that point in time, none of them were Americans in any way, shape, or form, even though they lived in America. And that their descendants are not Americans at this point in time. So therefore, their starting point is like 1863. It's like, you're nuts. I mean, only idiots would follow this line of thinking.
And we also know this very well. If it was President Kamala Harris, he'd be at the White House planning this America 250.
Sure. I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, there's a whole different thing, but it's like, Trump has, he's grabbed a hold of this thing, and they've got all kinds of things planned. I mean, I think if you've got a celebration for Birthday for America, this is going to be the birthday of all birthday celebrations. And there's just no way the Democrats would have held anything close to this.
Yeah, it's crazy.
All right, back to you.
Yeah, I'll keep it short because I want to get to watching the touchdown of Artemis. big accomplishment. Artemis, we're back from the farthest any human has ever gone before, or any man has gone before. And this is just the beginning of the process, of us getting on to Mars and beyond Mars to outside of our own galaxy, bold to go and explore space. That it's a phenomenal week for America. Everybody should be proud of being American, frankly, this week. And this, what we're seeing right now, there's no reason why I've got no tolerance for. I mean, there are a few critics of the Artemis program. The Houston Chronicle had an article, the Washington Post had an op-ed, and it's like, come on, get over it, frankly. And so couldn't be having a greater year. America 250, Artemis, back to the moon, and that's all there is to it. So good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, on to watching the splash.
Let's go down to